Hi, my name is Mike Tasevski. I head up all of global sponsorship for Scotiabank. I'm an advisory board member of the Scotiabank Women Initiative, and I'm here today with Deborah Moore. Just want to get to know you a little bit more. If you could just share a little bit about yourself, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mike, and thank you to Scotiabank. So I am a leadership and productivity coach, and what that really means is I help people, guide people to achieving their goals and overcoming challenges within their personal and professional lives. More recently, I've been working a lot on leadership specifically. It's a key part of businesses these days, obviously, or always has been. But I'm focused on leadership, and more recently have noticed a lot more women coming to me. So a big part of my practice is working with women to become inspiring leaders. And I come about the coaching from a bit of an unusual path, combining some marketing and strategic development business experience with 10 years plus of coaching high-performance Ironman athletes and racing Ironman myself. So it brings a unique perspective to the coaching, and I'm hoping that I can share some of those unique perspectives with you today.
That's great. Thank you. I just want to set the stage for today's discussion, and thank you for joining us today, Deborah. Really appreciate that. You look at today's current environment, it really has put a spotlight on navigating challenges and circumstances that have been come across many of the people. And when you look at leaders today, this environment has really put a spotlight on what you can do, and how you react and how you deal with situations. And the one thing that really comes to mind, or one word that really comes to mind, is being an authentic leader. And how can you take that word authentic and bring it forward as a leader? So, the first question I really have for you is, what is authentic leadership? Can you share your insights on the essence of an authentic leader? And what does it mean to you, and how do you take that word authentic and bring it forward to some of the people that you're working with on a regular basis?
Wow, so that is a very big word. It's a very big area. It's heavily used, which actually causes some problems, and I think sometimes it's a little bit misunderstood. To me, authentic leadership speaks to retaining your core values and your guiding principles, and sticking closely to those when you are developing the way that you operate at work, the way that you engage with people. It's really about making sure that you are true to what feels honest to you, and what does not compromise your integrity. And I think where the misunderstanding comes for people is because of the definition of authentic. A lot of people think, well, I'm just going to bring my true self to work, and they don't fully understand what that means. They think, well, I can just be whoever I want, and I can, if I'm outspoken and I'm very direct, well, that's who I'm going to be. And what they forget is that has to connect with other people, and that's what authenticity is about, is how you present yourself to the world. How do you present your guiding principles, your core values to the world, and how do you execute on those in the context of the workplace or in your personal life?
Yeah, and I look at that, I've lived that mantra my whole life, and really I've focused on bringing myself to the table the same way every day. I don't change. Where a lot of people try to adapt for a situation, and we see that quite a bit. You feel like you need to be forceful in a situation, or you feel like you conform to the environment, and it's almost like you want to shape yourself for every situation. And my thought when I look at authentic leadership is really just being who you are every day and not changing. I'd love your thoughts on that too.
That's a wonderful thing to bring to the world and to work every day. I think there is a lot of pressure out there to be someone that you're not, because that's what you see around you, or that's what you've read, or that's what people tell you. And I think it's very important to, as I said, stay true to what your core values are, because it is different for every person. So you cannot be who the other person is. However, I will say that one of the great things about authenticity, contrary to what some people think, is parts of it can be learned. You can pick up things that you've seen in a role model. You can mirror those things. You can learn from them, and you can bring them into your own practice of authenticity, as long as it stays true to your integrity, the things that you believe that hold you strong.
Mm-hmm. There's a particular statement that's resonated with me during my whole career, and I'd love to share it with you, and I'd love your thoughts on it. So let me read it to you. It's change what's going on inside of you, and the world outside of you will change in a positive direction. And I've always lived by that mantra, because when you look at it, you're trying to drive positive thought day in, day out in everything that you do, not only in the leadership that you drive, but also in the way you conduct yourself both personally and business. So that I've had that statement resonate with me forever, and I've always lived by that. I'd love what you think about that. Change is very hard sometimes for people internally. How do you affect that change?
Absolutely. I think a key thing to remember is, there's obviously a lot of change going on around you, but you can only control how you react to that change. So if you bring your true self to the situation, you're going to do your best at what you can affect change on. You may not be able to change everything, but I think a lot of people would be surprised at how much they actually can change when they bring that authenticity to the table. And you couldn't do any worse than just trying. I think Wayne Gretzky has the famous quote, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Right. So you're absolutely right. I think you can bring change to the world, regardless of what's happening around you.
In general, are women business leaders well set up to be authentic leaders, or are there challenges really that they're facing ahead? When you look at what they're dealing with, when we look back at that word of authentic leader. So, is that a challenge that they have moving forward?
I think there's huge challenges to women leaders in these situations. I think one of the things that has come out of a lot of research, or just even anecdotally and from observation, women are actually fearful of being authentic. I think there's been such a long history of lack of opportunity for women or gender bias in the workplace. And so women feel like they need to sort of catch up and be somebody else, be like the other leaders that they see around them in order to get ahead. And they go in there with lots and lots of drive and passion, but perhaps it's manifested in the wrong way because of that fear. If I don't behave in this way, like Lee Iacocca, whoever it is, I just won't make it. So I've got to be even more aggressive, or in fact, they try and make up for the lack of opportunity by being even more aggressive. And by doing that, they lose the authenticity that is really true inside them. So perhaps they're an empathetic person. That actually is one of a key hallmark of great authentic leadership is empathy. But I think they sort of squash things like that because they're just fearful of being seen as weak or too soft because they are a woman. So there are many, many challenges at play. And I think that now women are starting to realize I can be a little bit more of who I am, with all the support out there for women and women businesses. They can be who they want to be and still be successful. What I'm noticing from the clients that I coach is that there's still that internal hesitation of being a true leader. It's the fear of risk-taking, the fear of failure. It's very, very strong in women. I noticed it even in the coaching of high-performance athletes. Men versus women, very different feelings about taking risks in their training and pushing themselves. And it wasn't because they weren't capable, it's because they feared failure.
Interesting. It's interesting how things have changed over the years, and you've worked with leaders across various industries. What would you say are universal attributes to that better position people for success? And those are big for me as well, too. As you guide teams or work with people, I use a number of words all the time. And part of the exercise I use is I actually ask the individual, give me 5 words that best describe you. And I love hearing words of positive, collaboration, thoughtfulness, all these words that kind of reflect on someone that you want to be around and work for. I'd love your kind of view on that particular. What are the attributes that kind of resonate with you as you talk to people moving forward?
Well, I think you'd make a great coach, Mike, because you pretty much mentioned all of the key things that are hallmarks of really excellent, authentic leadership. High on the agenda are those kind of people skills, and I hate to use the term soft skills, but no, I don't think anybody's come up with a great alternative. But the connection with people is key, and this is something that so many people in the past just did not pick up on. They thought leadership was all about ruling, guiding the business.
Iron fist, yeah.
And it's not about guiding the business; it's about guiding the people. Yeah. So you're talking about skills like, connecting with people, encouraging effective communication, being empathetic to the humanity of your staff, your employees. These are people. These aren't robots who are there to do an automated job. You mentioned the word collaboration. That is huge. Authentic leadership is not about you as the leader making things happen through doing something. It is about you building people, all the people around you, to work together to create success. No one person can do it by themselves in any size organization. You mentioned just kind of inspiring and building up people. Mentoring and role modeling is actually a key hallmark of authentic leadership too. You are there as a figurehead to people. They will take from you what they think is supposed to be what they have to do to become a great leader themselves to the people around them. So being an excellent role model and mentor and, talking the talk and walking the walk is very, very important. So those are the key things that I've seen with the leaders that I've coached, the successful ones, the ones who have a great relationship with their peers and their employees. And I think what's interesting is that in many studies that I've read about, women actually over-index in these areas. Right. They demonstrate more of these attributes. Having said that, there are so many male leaders these days that are starting to move away from the traditional leadership model of iron fist rule and becoming a more collaborative leader. So it's looking very positive.
Yeah, and don't you feel like there's almost like a trust that's built there, being transparent and wearing your heart on your sleeve and, willing to, be empathetic, and especially when you look at the situation right now that we're in, you almost feel that way, that you have to be understanding of situations a little bit more broadly. Did you not agree with that? Just build that trust factor and that the ability to have your peers or the people around you speak openly. I think that's very, very important.
I 100% agree with you. I think the times we're in right now with a lot of working from home or remote working has really brought, I keep using the word humanity, but it keeps bringing the humanity to the surface. And I was just reading Satya Nadella's book, Hit Refresh, the CEO of Microsoft. And he was talking about how he'd been there for 25 years, and when he took over as CEO, he had a session with a psychologist and his executive leadership team, and he said he had no idea what some of his executive team did when they were out of the office. He didn't know if some of them were married and some of them had dogs or kids or played baseball. And I think in these times we've had people photobombing, conference and Zoom calls, and rather than everybody kind of going, oh my God, this is awful, people that say, oh, I didn't know you had kids. Tell me about them. And
kids crying in the background, and
and it forges a human connection. And I think what that does is it helps the employee or your peer colleague see you as somebody who they can connect with. And that is what we need to have better productivity at work. You need to be able to feel like you can work with this person or have them lead you and guide you. And as you said, trust them. You cannot trust somebody that you don't really know. So it is absolutely 100% crucial.
Yeah, and I think for leaders also is to break those barriers of hierarchy. Because I think that's very key to a successful leader is you don't want to have the peers or people around you fear you. They feel just because the title's there that I can't go to this individual. That's wrong. You got to be open and have that ability to have everyone connect with you. And I'm sure you see a lot more of that happening in the workplace now as leaders change their habits to deal with, all levels of business. Just to, place yourself in their situation and understand how they feel. I think that's so important.
That's right. There's no place for fear in a workplace, because then you lose the trust. Yeah. If you have no trust, there is no motivation to do a better job. You can't have you need to be able to motivate and inspire people, not have them fear you. Motivation and reward is a much bigger incentive for human beings than punishment or fear. You get much better productivity, much better working relationships, an amazing corporate culture that most people want to do better and get the best out of themselves for the company, because it is the best for them. So it is absolutely, it's so important to have that ease of connection, or a healthy bit of respect.
Yeah. Correct.
Is important. You have to have respect, because the person who is leading is there for a reason. They're smart, they're experienced. But respect and fear are two very different things.
Correct. I agree with you. So when you look at it, what are the key leadership lessons that characterize authentic leadership, and how did today's environment, really highlight their importance? Like, what are those, to bring those characteristics forward? What are they in your minds when you talk to a lot of these leaders?
Well, there are many of them, but there's a pattern of probably 3 to 4 really key things that successful leaders focus on. And the first would be to make sure that you keep your mission, your why, at the center of what you do, the center of your motivation. So, for some of these women-led businesses, why did you get started in the first place? Any big organization, in fact, it translates to a business of any size. What is your mission? Why did you do this? And keep your eye on that, because that should hopefully align with your guiding principles, and therefore authentic leadership will come naturally from that. Another key one is empathy. We've talked about this before, but any organization is nothing without people. You need people to get things done, whether they are internal or external partners. And if you don't have the empathy, then you cannot connect with these people. You won't get the best out of them. You won't get what you need. It'll be much harder to get things done. I think one of the key things, and you've talked about this, Mike, was being self-aware and reflecting. I personally think this is the number one thing on a list of what you should do as an authentic leader, and it's something that I start my coaching practice with any new client is reflection. What drives you? What is your guiding principle? What are your core values? You have to be very clear on those. And to be clear on those, you have to sit down and reflect on who you are, your past experiences, what has worked for you, what hasn't, what do you want from your leadership, what do you want from your organization, from your group. So that, I think, is where everything actually starts. And then we talked about this already, adaptability and the ability to be in it for the long run, which only comes from being able to adapt. So we're not talking about compromising on your principles. We're talking about, especially in these times, how do you pivot or adapt when things get a little bit tough? People are looking to you for guidance. That's what leadership really is about. It's about guidance. It's not about ruling. So how do you keep your energy levels high enough that you can keep adapting and growing as a leader? So those are the four key things. And I think they're so relevant, especially today. The empathy, the keeping your eye on your mission, being in it for the long run. It's a long haul we're in right now. There's a lot of big change going on, and I think the change is going to be enduring. So these things, all four of those things actually are more relevant now than they ever have been, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, especially the challenge that are ahead. And you don't have an answer to every question now, too, because the environment has changed so much. But you still have to have that element of a bit of a risk, too. Yeah, I mean, so because you still have to continue to grow, one as an individual, but also as a business or as a leader. And you've also got to kind of have that mentality for the people around you, because you want them to continue to grow. You don't want them to stop as well. Yeah, I mean, I think that's so important.
Yes, exactly. And that goes back to the support of your employees, the motivation, the incentivizing of your employees. One of them is to help them keep growing as people, for their benefit and for yours. It does nobody any good to stagnate. So that adaptability and that human connection, once again, it's all coming back to the same sort of principles of authentic leadership.
Yeah, and when you look at it, Deborah, when I almost look at it this way, so I always reflected, I've read about a lot of different leaders. The word selfish comes up sometimes, do you know what I mean? And I find that, in many good leaders, it's not about them, it's about the people down below them and making sure they reach the top. And I'd love your viewpoint on that too, because that is so important to kind of get the best out of your people, because you're working for them. And it benefits you in the long run, don't get me wrong, because they're helping build who you are as a leader too, but you're enabling them to get to that next level as well. I'd love your thoughts on that too.
Wow, yeah, that is the continuous conflict of leadership. I think the traditional view was always leader at the top. They drive everything. They are the gold standard. Nobody can touch them. And with that, I think, came a lot of ego. And ego has no place in good leadership. It really doesn't, because then you're in it for your own gain. And eventually, the good luck runs out on that. You cannot be in it for your own gain, expect people to work for your benefit or for your image and have success for the company. It eventually crumbles. So you're absolutely right. You need a lot of humility to be a great leader. You need to put aside any ego, or perhaps you didn't even have it in the first place. The great leaders are the ones who recognize that right up front, and they come to it with humility as opposed to ego. And they recognize that the goal or the mission is actually to to grow the company, the business, the group, whatever the goal is, the business goal is, and to grow the people. So if you keep your eye on that as a leader, you will have success and you will have authentic leadership that benefits everybody, as opposed to how can I be successful in my career? Well, I can be the top dog. That's very inauthentic. I think if you're a true authentic leader and you have the right core values, that humility will come naturally.
Mm-hmm. I love those thoughts. I really do. And it's part of what my DNA is, and I've lived that way too, and I continue to push that way as a leader. When we look at the impact of applying the lessons we talked about during a time of crisis, how are leaders able to adapt this for the future? I mean, can we continue down that path of really focusing on the style of leadership from what they've learned today? I mean, how do you feel about that? I'd love your thoughts as we move forward into the coming year and into the future.
I certainly hope so. I think this has been quite the turning point for the workplace environment in general. I think we will see it evolve, however. It is not, it's a very, very big area to look at, workplace culture, workplace process, managing crisis. Everybody's working remotely now, but at some point there will be a return to in-person connection in the workplace. So I think that it'll take some time for people to figure out what the ideal situation is for their business. And I think that will be where we see some of these authentic leadership qualities really coming to the forefront. We've seen it obviously in the last 3 months in many, many cases, a lot of connection with the humanity of the employees or peers, a lot of adaptable leadership, a lot of reflection, a lot of endurance needing to happen. So I think this is an amazing time for people to sit back and reflect a little bit more. Well, what can I take from this and take it forward and put it into a permanent place for my business? Because the hard fact is, when you have inspired, motivated, engaged employees who feel like their leader understands their personal situation, cares about supporting them and moving their learning forward and moving the overall business forward, you're going to have a much more productive business. You're going to have a successful business. You're going to have an enduring business. So I think that these leadership skills will be a huge benefit to the growth of small, medium, and large business across the country. And I'd be interested to see the impact over the next 5 years, say, on the economy. I think there's going to be a huge effect once we get through the worst of the crisis economically. I think it's a massive opportunity, and especially for some of these small and medium business owners to step up as the new wave of authentic leaders.
That's great. Thank you. What do you think about Scotiabank's role in supporting women business leaders, and how do programs like the Scotiabank Women's Initiative help entrepreneurs to help contribute to the Canadian economy's growth? How do we play a role in that? How do you foresee us playing that role and continuing to play that role?
Well, first of all, having a women initiative is amazing. I think, the women have struggled in the past to find support, and especially financial support. I know that the stats say that one of the biggest areas of struggle is finding funding for their business. So, I think it's just wonderful to have a program that focuses on women and building their businesses in general. But one of the things I love about this program, which I'm very grateful to be part of, is providing education and there's mentorship as well through the program. So, women who want to start their businesses, or for that matter, any small business or medium business owner, they need so much support, because when they're starting up and trying to grow, they're fairly small. Their resources are a bit limited, and having something where they can log on and listen to experts, people who have experience in the field that they're struggling with, to provide them with insights, real world insights into how to overcome some of those things is invaluable. It's really exciting to see a program like this.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And, thank you for all your thoughts today.
You're very welcome, Mike, and thank you to you and the Scotiabank Women Initiative for having me. I hope that it's inspiring information and inspiring words for some of the women out there, and hopefully for some of the men who support them as well. And I look forward to hearing from some of them, I hope.
Super. Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.